Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have reviewed those minutes and find them to be in order, so I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
I have a motion.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Second thing up is public comments, which we've had no one sign up for public comments. So we'll move on to our investment report. Call on Mr. Beatty.
Chairman, I'm Ted Beatty, the county trustee. Our LGIP rate, we dropped out of the 5s. We dropped to 4.95. Our bank rate was 4.50, and we did have a couple of bids this month on CDs, one at 4.34, one at 4.51. So we're just trying to kind of spread out as rates are declining. As you may know, short-term rates dropped another quarter point today. So we'll just kind of adjust, but we still have quite a bit of money above 5 in our investment portfolio.
Any questions for Mr. Beatty? Hearing none, I have a motion to approve and a second. Commissioner Johnson, Piercy on the. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Tabor.
Thank you.
Next is our fund condition report. Michael.
So a couple things I'd like to put out on the fund condition report for tonight. We did have an uptick in sales tax for both the school system and the county. So that's good news. And then I'll follow it up with some bad news to equal that out. This past month, we only had a little over $40,000 in school facilities tax. Now, we did anticipate that, but that is significantly lower than the previous month. And I'll give you an example. The previous months were running anywhere from $480,000 to $700,000. And so we anticipated that with a lot of people trying to get in and pay before the change in the fees, but just pointing that out as well. They also started getting property tax collections in October. And as you can see on the revenue report on your iPads, those are right in line with where they should be this time of year. So that is some good news there. And then additionally, the Fed did lower by 25 basis points today, the Fed funds rate. But right now, as Mr. Beatty stated, that our investment income is still good and on track to be where it should be. And with that, that's my report.
Any questions for the director? Hearing none. I have a motion to approve and a second. Commissioner Pierce. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Next up is the risk management financial report.
Good evening. Ed Elam, Insurance and Risk Management Director for Rutherford County. So in your 264 fund, for the month of October, revenue is $1,814,136. Expenditures, $2,307,340. Revenue less expenditures, a negative $493,203. For the year, totals, revenue $19,227,201. Expenses $19,303,000. Revenue less expenditures is a negative $75,799. And for the fiscal year comparison, your totals for revenue $7,627,741. Expenditures $8,667,543. Revenue less expenditures a negative $1,039,802. On the 266 fund, for the month of October, you have in workers' comp $1,042.06. OJI, you have $71,298.40. Workers' comp and OJI total for the month of October, $72,340.46. And for the current fiscal year to date, workers' comp, $4,457.13. OJI, $329,551.92. And your total is $334,009.05. On the attorney's expenses for the month of October, it was a total of $4,807.95. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Questions for Mr. Elam?
One,
Recommendation.
on our attorney expenses, does that cover extra attorneys we have to hire sometimes to help Nick in certain situations, or is it just for his office?
It's just for his office.
Is ever a report put out for the extra, shows what we have to spend on that?
We can gather a report for all attorneys' fees, and I think also in that, mediators, things like that would be in that report.
I move.
If you do mediation and stuff, it would be in there.
I move to approve his report.
Can I add something to his question?
Just a moment. I've got a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second? Hear a second. Now we can have discussion. And I'll recognize you first, and then back to Chairman Harris.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see Chairman Harris there. You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm just curious on Fund 264 with this $1 million negative. Will this be made up in the next 3 months?
So usually in your last 6 months, you have where a lot of people have met their deductible in the first 6 months. So the county pays a larger amount of the claim because the deductibles are met a lot of times. So you'll see a higher difference. You know, your premiums are set over 12 months. So if you go back and if you look at the total for the calendar year, that would show where you have your first of the part where the county's not paying the first months, where the county is not paying as much on the claims because people are trying to meet their deductibles and their out-of-pockets. But as you get towards the end, the last 6 months, especially the last 3 months, you will see where the county's paying a larger share of those claims because they've met their deductible and a lot of people have met their out-of-pocket. So to answer your question, yes, it'll be makeup if you look at it in its totality, like you see for the year.
Yeah, I'm just looking at 23, Ed, and we had 3.6 positive, and then here it is November, and we're 1 million down. So I'm just wondering if it's going to be caught back up, in the next 2 months, which it normally does,
That's
right?
what we try to budget for.
Okay.
In our premiums, yes.
Michael?
I'm going to add something to both of their questions there. First to Commissioner Piercy, you're asking about the attorney's expense. So I'm going to give you an example. The one we've hired for the landfill is not going to be in that report. That's coming out of the county general fund. What Mr. Elam's given you is out of Fund 263. And so there are some additional costs that are not they're not going to be part of that fund out of 263. So you're going to have some county expense for some of the more specialized attorneys that y'all have hired outside. That may or may not be in there depending on if it's an active claim or depending on the type of case that it is. So we can combine that if that's something y'all would like, we could put that together, but that's not going to be in the numbers that Mr. Elam gave you.
And yeah, I inherited this report, but I think the reason why, if going back to my memory, is that they wanted to isolate the cost with the county attorney instead of it all being blended in. I think that's what, when I came in, that's why they said this report was specific for cost for the county attorney.
The reason I asked, I was just curious how much we were having to spend on extra attorney's fees, because we approved to spend money on it, but I've never heard how much was actually spent or how much it was a month or to that point. That's the reason I was asking.
Get that.
If you request it, we can get that for you.
I think it would be good to have it at least one time.
Okay, be happy to.
Thank you.
And then if I could add something to Chairman Harris's question. If you're looking down there on the, you're looking at the $1 million deficit for 24-25, was that what you were looking at? Sorry, I can't see you around there. If you'll look at the prior year above, you'll notice there's some really large months, like if you look at March of 24, and then you'll notice we go down quite a bit in April if you're looking at that row right above. So two things. One, we don't get rebates every month, so you're going to get rebates usually once a quarter, and so that's going to play into this as well. And then you'll notice at the end in June, we have to do what's called, we shore up our payables. And so you'll notice that it jumps really right there at June. There's like a $700,000 increase for the month of June. That is because we're shoring up our payables. We have to estimate what our incurred but not reported claims are. And so there will be, that's a long answer to say, is there's a lot of moving pieces there that a portion of that will be made up towards the end of the year. And once we have some claims, large claims that hit stop loss, we will be reimbursed for those, but that's not always in the month that claim incurs.
So going back on Commissioner Piercy's question, so the lawsuit that we have as far as the copyright problem, that the software in the Sheriff's Department, does that come out of their budget or does that come out of unfunded balance?
When we have an active lawsuit that has a claim number with our TPA, that's going to be in the report that Mr. Elam gave you, and that's going to come out of our Fund 263. So we pre-fund that every year with an estimate of how much money we think that might cost us to the county for lawsuits. So for example, the general fund puts in a pot of money, EMS, solid waste, the schools, everybody puts in a pot, and then we keep track of that based on the fund it came out of. So in that case that you're talking about, that's going to come out of Fund 263, our property and casualty, our insurance fund. But if we don't have an active claim or an active lawsuit, similar to the solid waste, some of the solid waste issues there, that is coming out of 116 or 101, the county general fund. So it really just depends on the type of case. Does it have a claim? But in the case you ask about, that's coming out of Fund 263. It could, if it were to go over how much we budgeted, it could come out of fund balance in the general fund. We would have to move more money over to that insurance fund. But we try to run more money than we need to protect us there. But in that case, it could eventually, if it were to get too expensive, yes. But right now, it is not.
Any other questions for the director? Not. We have a motion and a second. No further discussion. Carla, call roll on this one.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Motion carries. Okay.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ed. Next is our a general fund budget amendment from Archives.
Don Lodell, Director of the Archives. If you remember a couple months ago, we came to this committee seeking permission to go after a Tennessee State Museum grant. We were awarded that grant. We received $18,270. So now we need a budget amendment to recognize revenue for the State of Tennessee Museum grant and appropriate the expenditures for what we're going to purchase, which is shelving to store artifacts for the museum downstairs. And the storage will be at the county archives.
Motion to
Is that right?
approve.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Sir. Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Motion carries. Thank you, John. All right, next up is the mental health patient transport grant and related general fund budget amendments. And
Good evening. I'm Steve Spence, the Deputy Chief at the Sheriff's Office. First budget amendment allocates $135,878 For the financial year 24-25, funds awarded to the Rutherford County for the Mental Health Patient Transport Appropriation Grant. Funds will be used for other contracted transport services. Requesting $135,878 be accepted before we can place it into our other contracted services.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Commissioner Irving. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrina?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Continue, please.
This amendment is to move money from the restricted for public safety to maintenance and repair of building and the drug fund building improvements, requesting to take $190,000 from the restricted for public safety, placing $65,000 into maintenance and repair of building and $125,000 into the building improvements.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call roll, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrina?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Steve, if you don't mind, I would like to drop down to the very bottom of our agenda there, and we have got another one that I'd have to call you back up for on the SROs. Can you go ahead and do that now?
Yes, sir, sure can. This amendment is to recognize revenue and expenses for the new delegated grant authority 84613 from the state of Tennessee Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission for a retention bonus for SROs who successfully completed an assignment as an SRO during the 23-24 school year and are currently still serving the Sheriff's Office as an SRO. The SROs must have completed the initial 40 hours SRO training as required by the state. If a new SRO or completed 16 hours of SRO in-service training, it has been determined there are 63 SROs that qualify for $800 each, which is a total of $50,400, requesting to accept those funds and place them into the salary supplement line item. There's no match.
I have a motion. And a second. Commissioner Johnson. Discussion.
If amenable to the committee, if this could include both approval of the grant and for the mayor to sign and accept, and for the attached budget amendment, if it could be for both of those, if that's amenable for the motion.
You add that to your motion? Yes. Second was Johnson, and it's okay with him. Make that part of the motion, please. Any further discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrina?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Motion passes. Thank you. Okay.
Chairman, if I could make an announcement, if that's okay, for this grant, I just wanted to clarify, this one, the reason it was on our other business, it was due for us to submit on December 2nd, and so that's the reason it was on our other business tonight, is we just got it this week. I just didn't want anybody on the committee to think that's why it's on there under other business.
Thank you for doing that. And two, at the end of other business, I want to discuss this topic because it's something that's reoccurring, and I don't want this committee or any other committee have the feeling that we're trying to bypass. Basically, it's when we have a deadline that we will lose money that we would otherwise get, and I want y'all's opinion on what we need to do going forward in the future. But we'll get to that at the end of the discussion tonight. Okay, Michael, I think you've got the next one, electronic monitoring.
Yes, so the last year was the first year for this piece. We've had it for several years. In the past, we used to send money to the state, and the state would pay for the electronic monitoring of indigent individuals declared by the court. Last year, they changed this where they send us the money and we pay for it. And so this is the second year of that. This is to approve the funds of $35,327.29. This has already been budgeted in our budget this year, but this is to approve this with the state. And even if we don't approve this, we still have to pay for the people that are indigent under the electronic monitoring. So this helps offset the cost here for the county.
I have a motion, Commissioner Pierce, second, Commissioner Irving. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrina?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes,
Thank you.
motion carries. I'm going to jump around on our agenda here, if it's okay with the rest of them, and call on our Judge Jimmy. If you don't mind, you can come on and present now. He's had a case he's working on, and I think he needs to get back. Well, I've already called you up now. Let's get this going. Come on up to the podium, please. This is item 15, the general fund budget amendment for circuit court judges.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Jimmy Turner. I'm one of our circuit court judges here. I know most of you. The circuit judges and I talked about adding additional microphones to some of our courtrooms, particularly the criminal courtrooms, but also the others that hold jury trials, which all of the trial court judges, there's 6 of us, we all hold jury trials. Judge Tidwell, a few months ago, was kind of the pilot on a project to add, I think, 2 handheld mics and 2 wireless mics for his courtroom for predominantly jury selection. We came into a situation about 6 months ago. My court reporter, who had been with the court system for 30 years, she passed away unexpectedly from cancer. And she had kept all of the transcripts for everything, and including criminal jury trials where jury selection can sometimes be a big issue depending on the defendant and some of the issues raised. Well, the recordings for jury selection don't exist because we have a very small microphone in the jury box that really doesn't pick up anything that individual jurors say during the jury selection process. It is a part of the process of a trial that is not in the movies, it's not in TV. Unless you practice law or have tried a jury trial, you would not really know much about it. But it's where the attorneys ask the prospective jurors questions about their background, whether they could be fair and impartial to the parties. And so she had all the recordings, and they're filed with the clerk, of all the jury trials. But the recordings of this, we call it voir dire or jury selection, there really isn't anything. It's up to the individual court reporter to transcribe everything that those prospective jurors say. So Judge Tidwell thought, well, let's see if we can get with OIT and actually get microphones for the jury selection process to pass around. Also to get lapel mics for the attorneys so that they can walk about the courtroom while they're asking these questions so that there is a secure recording. And he piloted that a couple months ago, maybe. I don't recall when, and he's had a few trials since. These microphones would generally only be used for those processes. And especially on the criminal end, we try anywhere from, depending on the year, 30 to 50 jury trials. Sometimes it's on the lower end. It just depends. So I've been asked on behalf of the other judges to come and propose an amendment to allow these microphones to be installed in the other courtrooms, in addition to the one that Judge Tidwell has. I think it costs per courtroom around $1,600. And what I was given is a proposed amendment of $12,000 for that. Happy to take any questions.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Gooch on the second, I believe. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call roll.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Motion carries. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. And if you guys want recovery court graduation on Tuesday, love to see you all there. I should have sent something to you, but
What's the time?
not at 10:30, courtroom 6A.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you. Yes, next week. Thank y'all for everything you do.
Thank you, guys. Next thing on the agenda is the ambulance service fund budget transfer.
Evening, Brian Gaither, EMS Director. We're asking to move money out of our 735 health equipment, $44,000 into our 709 data processing equipment to purchase new laptops for all of our units.
I have a motion and a second. Commissioner Johnson?
Are the old ones not in good shape?
They're warranted for 3 years. So once they kind of reach that point, and we're pretty tough on them, we use them 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So while they're under warranty, they're pretty quick to kind of turn around, but once they run out of the warranty, they're really not worth trying to fix. And they're pretty hard on them because they're with them on every call. They're in and out of the trucks daily. And
What do you do with the old ones? What do you do with them?
we keep them and we use them for as long as we can as spares. This $44,000 is going to purchase 22, and we staff 18 911 trucks a day and 5 to 6 BLS trucks a day, so we're already a couple of short, but some of the older ones, we use them for as long as we can.
Okay, I have a motion and a second on that. Is that correct? All right. Any further discussion? Call roll.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion
you.
carries. Brian, continue there.
And then the second thing is, we applied for this last year and we were not successful, but it's a State of Tennessee grant. It's a no-match grant, situational equipment grant. They have about $2 million that the state will award to ambulance services. It's kind of a first come, first serve. It will be up to $150,000, and it's a no-match grant. Asking for permission to apply.
Have a motion to approve. Commissioner Johnson.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sereno. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Michael, you've got something to say, but motion.
We'll have to clarify whether, kind of like we did last night at Public Works, clarify whether, since it's a no match, we can sign and accept, or whether it comes back.
Oh, I think once it's accepted, I want it to automatically come back to us to approve. I mean, I understand what you're saying about it being no match, but I still want this committee to know exactly how much it is, because we won't know unless it's brought right in front of us. That's my suggestion. Committee, anybody disagree with that? Okay.
I just need to clarify for the minutes.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Okay, item 12, subrecipient agreement with Allard Consulting. Who have we got here? Okay, there. Michelle, how are you doing?
Lachelle Ricks, Director for Recovery Court. Good evening. We were awarded a SAMHSA grant that we asked the committee if we could accept, and we are wanting to put in an agreement for a subrecipient who will be helping us make decisions on programmings. She'll be doing evaluation and data collection and analysis.
Any questions for the director? Money that we already have, but have a motion to approve. Commissioner Johnson.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sereno. Any further discussion or questions? Call roll, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Irvin? Yes. Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Item 13, juvenile detention contracts with various counties. Evening.
Good evening. Captain Leon Caesar with the Rutherford County Juvenile Detention Center. Unfortunately, Lynn could not be here today. In front of you, you have 13 contracts. These contracts are the continuation of the updated contract that we have with existing counties. If you recall, last month, we had the same contract presented, but there's different counties. We did present this. It went in front of our board members. It was approved, and it also went in front of public safety, which was approved as well. And that will end my report.
Michael, have you got a list of the counties?
Yes, I can. Give me a second. I'll read those out to you.
By the way, while he's looking, none of these are new. These are renewals and actually increasing cost to these counties from us. It's a continuation of what we have been doing.
So it's going to be Chester County, Coffee County, Giles County, Henderson County, Hickman County, Lake County, McNairy County, Madison County, Moore County, Sequatchie County, Stewart County, Tipton County, Wilson County, and that's it.
That got all of them, Captain?
Yes, sir.
That completes the list. I mean, there's no more out there. That's what I was getting.
That's all of them.
All been updated is what I'm asking.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. Okay, you've heard his request basically to update these. Do I hear a motion? Mr. Johnson moves to approve. Second, Commissioner Irving. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next is a application for the solid waste infrastructure for recycling grant.
The Solid Waste Department is asking for permission to apply for a grant with the EPA called Solid Waste Infrastructure for Recycling. This is a no-match grant that we want to use to kind of outfit at Haley Road for 2 high-capacity compactors, the receiver boxes, the outdoor construction with electrical, concrete, and paving, a roll-off truck, a front-load truck, and a box truck, and then wrapping those trucks, and then equipment and supplies to outfit the building at Haley Road as a classroom.
Okay, one thing we asked on the front end is to introduce yourself, Matt.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm Matt Davis, Assistant Director of the Solid Waste Department.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Several of us saw this last night at Public Works, which was approved there just for the committee's knowledge. Do you have any questions for Matt?
Sir?
I say, are there any questions from the committee for Matt on this? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrina?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch? Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. And one thing I'll mention here, and it was requested that this grant, if approved and for how much, would go back to Public Works for them to see. Of course, it comes back to us too when we see the amount. But just so you know, it will be going back to the committee. But thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
All right. Already got 15 out of the way, so next is a general fund amendment for flood mitigation. Running into this guy somehow.
Thank you, Chairman P. Mike Hughes, Rutherford County Engineering Department. I'm here to discuss the fund budget amendment for the flood mitigation from FEMA. This is for a FEMA buyout. We were here a couple months ago to set the county's portion. If you recall, the original grant was 75% FEMA, 12.5 state, and 12.5 county. When the contract came back, it was 90% FEMA, 5% state, and 5% local or county. So, but it came back as a reimbursement, and what we had to do is cover the costs. And on your iPad, you'll see, and Michael might need to help me out, but you have other state grants. That's to pay the state portion, and then the other federal through state is the 323, and then transfers to other funds is the repayment of those. So we have to pay everything up front, and then we get that money back. But this is the state and the federal portion.
And this has already been approved by the commission, if I'm not mistaken, this particular one. So basically what we're doing is approving what the final numbers are. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. They
changed.
changed the contract. Yes, sir.
I didn't want y'all to think you were looking at something new.
No, this is not a new one. This is the one that's been hanging around forever.
I want to clarify something. The contract has already been approved and signed. That did come through. That new contract was for a little over $1.1 million. As of right now, from what I've been told by the Planning and Engineering Department, there's only one house ready to be bought.
Yes.
And so we have our match set aside in our General Capital Projects Fund. This is going to be that federal and state portion, and since they want us to front the money, we will write a check for the full amount, and then they'll reimburse us the state and federal portion. So you're just seeing the budget amendment piece for that reimbursement. When we originally got the grant, we didn't think it was going to be reimbursement based, but then they since have changed that. So you're just seeing the amendment tonight for that state and federal portion. Our portion has already been budgeted and is set aside for this. So you may see one more amendment if they were to buy the second house, or if they're increase in demolition costs, we would be reimbursed for those. But as of right now, this is the only cost that we've been aware of.
Correct.
Any other questions? Not, I will consider a motion. Have a motion?
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Call roll.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Shrina?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. Mike. All right, next up is the General Purpose School Fund Budget Amendments.
Evening, Commissioners. The first one we have is Fund 141 Fund Balance Amendment. This amendment increases budgeted fiscal year 24-25 Fund 141 revenue and expenditures to recognize the carryover amounts of the state-funded Public School Security Grant and the Innovative Model School Grant. The funds for the Public School Security Grant will be used to provide Raptor event management license and software, purchase of radios, repeaters, radio software, and bullet-resistant film. Carryover amount of this grant totals $905,496.68. Monies for the Innovative Schools Model Grant will be used to provide 75% of salary payment to existing CTE personnel, stipends for PBL works training, vehicle equipment purchases for various CTE activities, and construction and renovations to CTE buildings and structures at multiple schools. Carryover amount of this grant is $14,162,446. Both grants have been approved by the State Department of Education already, and no local matches are required for either grant.
Mr. Chairman?
Recognize.
Okay, I heard every word you said.
Yep.
And can you say it in a little more structured way so that I can understand? We're getting a grant in, basically?
Correct. Yeah, and these were grants that had carryover
For
money from
14
last
million
year.
or $9 million, 900,000, or what are we getting in?
They are leftover grants from last year where all the funds weren't expended. The Innovative Schools Model Grant was a grant that has to be expended by September 30th of 2026.
So the state had money left over and they're sending it to us?
Correct.
Okay, and then, and the school's basically, it's going into the account and the school board will figure out how to divvy it up or within these guidelines?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Each high school got $1 million and each middle school got $500,000 to further career and technical education.
Okay. Okay. And career tech, that's like vocational?
Correct, yes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you much.
We have a second one if you want to take them together.
That's what I was going to ask the committee. Do you want to continue or do you want to vote on this one separate? Continue? Separate, okay. Do I hear a motion? I have a motion to approve. Second. And a second. Commissioner Gooch. Any further discussion on this grant? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sereno?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes?
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. Please continue, Jimmy.
Thank you. Second one is a Fund 141 fund balance amendment. This amendment is to fund the purchase of radios, equipment, and service from Mobile Communications America for all Rutherford County schools. This project will be funded by amending General Purpose Fund 141 by decreasing 39,000 unassigned fund balance and increasing expenditure account 72,610,399, operation of plant, other contracted services, and 72,610,720, operation of plant operation equipment in the amount of $2,015,000. Something we discussed with Health and Ed, just so everyone is aware. Last year, we, in May, received $4.1 million from the Tennessee Department of Education. After the fiscal year ended, we received an additional $2.8 million that went into our fund balance. So that is the direct request to use that funding to purchase our radios for safety.
Any questions for the director on this?
Okay, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so I heard what you said. I'm trying to think, so the money received, okay, went into the general fund balance.
Correct.
Okay, and now how was the radios, how was that determined?
It is actually part of the previous fund balance amendment as well. So we had safety grant, the $900,000 left to purchase some parts of the radios, and then we had $2 million left. It was originally a little bit closer to $8 or $9 million, but we have done a great job, and our team has, of working through negotiations. Ms. Easter's back there. And working through, so without getting too far into the weeds, over the last 4 years, I think the county's had a lot of conversations about radio systems. During that process, the school system is using analog and we need to move to digital. And so the radios that were provided, we have 3 per school, 1 for a principal, 1 for an assistant principal, and 1 for the SRO. And we need many more radios than that to be able to communicate.
And these are all integrated, basically.
They'll be integrated with our own school system. The SRO and the principal will still have to carry their own separate one to be able to communicate with emergency services.
Okay, so that was my next question. So like the sheriff's office and those folks, that's a separate.
Yes, we wouldn't want our teachers being able to radio all of them at the same time as well, but great question. Yes, sir.
Fair enough. I just was trying to get a sense. All right, thank you.
Further questions for the director? Here none, we'll ask for a motion to approve on this. Have we already got?
Motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
Second. Further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes,
Thank
motion
you.
carries. Okay, please continue.
Thank you, Commissioners. Last, we have the request for LaVergne High School's Annex bid. That is bid number 3766. On Thursday, September 26, 2024, Purchasing and Engineering Construction received bids for the site work and construction of the annex for LaVergne High. All bids have been reviewed. Engineering Construction recommends Robert S. Biskin and Company, $36,340,000 base bid plus alternate number one, $90,000 for a total bid of $36,430,000. Engineering recommended the motion to approve the request and move forward to Health and Ed, which is why it got to you now. Just as a overall breakdown, construction again is $36,430,000. Construction-related contracts is $2 million. Fixtures, furniture, and equipment is $3 million. Design was $2.5 million, and that was already funded previously out of moving money from 189 from previous projects. The total request for the entire project is $43,930. However, the $2.5 million has already been funded, so it's $41,430,000 is the actual request. We had a very lengthy discussion about this process and everything with Health and Ed a week ago Tuesday.
Okay, we'll open it up to our committee for any questions. You recognize Chairman Harris.
What is the, what's the capacity for LaVergne High School?
Right now, I've got my folder. LaVergne High School right now is 2127.
That's how many students are in there?
That's the capacity of our current building.
How many students we have?
Sorry, our current students are 2127. You're correct. So 2127, and our capacity is right over 2,000. And so when we are looking, this will bring us up to 2,500. That's kind of been our numbers staying at 2,500.
So we're over capacity right now.
Absolutely.
And so how many portables do you have at LaVergne?
Just a second, I can
It's
pull it
okay,
up.
man.
It's well over a dozen classrooms.
Sir?
It's well over a dozen classrooms, and we have 19 teachers on a cart.
So 19 portables?
We have over a dozen portable actual classrooms. What I don't know is the single double. I don't know how many are singles and how many are doubles. But
Okay.
along with that, we also have 19 teachers on a cart that are not in a portable. We don't have room for them to even be in a portable.
And so this will bring us up to a capacity of 2,500?
Yes, sir.
And how many extra teachers do we have to hire?
Probably by the time we get to 2,500, we usually do 6 for every 150 high school students in our core content area. So 6, 12, probably 16 by the time we get to 2,500.
Okay.
But we're still 3 years or so away from getting to 2,500.
Okay.
Michael, if you don't mind, I'd like you to address, if this is approved, how we would go about a bond issue. I want that on the front end, please.
So this body and the full commission would have a couple of options if you wish to move forward with that. My recommendation, I'll give you that to you up front and then give you a couple other options. If this body wishes to approve this, then I would recommend us funding this through a future bond issuance sometime in the spring. I believe the school system is going to come and ask for a middle school sometime in the spring as part of their plan. And so my recommendation, if you wish to approve this, would be to borrow the $41,430,000 in the spring. The next option would be you could direct me to borrow it now. I don't advise that option, but that is a possibility. And then the other option is, you don't approve it at all, and I'm not saying I recommend that either, but if we're going to move forward, my recommendation is to fund it through a future bond issuance sometime in the spring, either March, April, or May, I think is the time frame we're looking at.
But it would have to be approved for that bond issuance to be issued by the full commission here and at the full commission. But then at that time, we would know that we would actually do the bond issuance in the spring. Basically, it's pre-approved, waiting on the bond issue.
Mm-hmm. So if y'all did approve that route tonight, it'd be just very similar to how we did the high schools, that we did Oakland, Riverdale, and Smyrna. We funded that through a future bond issuance, and we came back in that fall That was approved in the spring of '23, and we came in October of '23 and did that issuance. So it would allow them to start construction and sign contracts, and then you would build. I would have to borrow the 41 million or somewhere in that range in the spring. It could be a little less. They may have a little money left over from Oakland. One of the reasons that's my recommendation is they could have a little bit of money left over from Oakland, Riverville, and Smyrna. Every little bit helps. So it could be a little less than the 41 million, but that would be best case scenario. I think they're probably too early right now to know exactly what they're going to have left over for those 3 schools.
Mr. Irvin.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I'd like to pick on a couple things, just kind of pick right up. So that's about 2 or 3 pennies, basically, of financing costs. Is that, Michael? Okay, fair enough. But there's nothing in the budget right now for the 2 or 3 pennies, my estimate.
So yes, it could be. I'm going to talk about something here in a minute tonight under item 20 and 21. This particular project, I don't anticipate needing any additional pennies right now for this particular project to borrow based on if items 20 and 21 are approved tonight.
So then just to be clear, there's no additional budget impact to, it would just be kind of if I'm thinking where you're thinking, it's probably just replacement pennies for the pennies that are being paid back or being reduced that are going to be taken by these 2 or 3, because there's 2 or 3 pennies cost.
It won't be exactly dollar for dollar, but as I'm predicting out now, I'm starting to get out past a year or 2, but based on everything current right now, the plan would not be, you would not have to add any more revenue to the debt service fund to fund this debt issuance for the 41 million.
Okay, so as of now, based on analysis, there would not have to be a tax increase, a penny, a couple, 2 or 3 pennies of tax increase based on this.
That's correct.
Okay, but it would cost the 2 or 3 or how, pennies.
Whatever the interest rate, I mean, the interest rates were, and I'll cover this a little more detail in a second. The bond market was not good yesterday. The election was not good. It was great for the stock market. It was bad for the bond market. So who knows what will happen in 6 months or a year. But as of right now, based on all the numbers we ran this morning, I ran them as late as this morning, this would not trigger any type of tax increase for 151 right now as it stands today.
Okay. And are there any, okay, now we're shifting back. Is there any additional capital improvement cost for LaVergne over the next 5 years?
A major roof construction, so right now that would be probably a $6 million project in today's numbers, but that is in the next 5 years. It's not one of ours that's on our plan to address this year.
Okay, so one project, $6 million, new roof. Okay, and is that already built in? Is that coming out of 177 probably?
Yes, sir, it's 177.
Okay, and that's already built into that.
It's built, it'll be built into next year's. Whether or not we choose it as a priority to fund, I'm not sure, because as you know, we have way more projects than we do funding.
Okay, because one of the things I'm trying to figure out is that, and so it's a little uncertain when that would be, when the new roof goes on.
Correct. Yeah, it is not in one of the worst shapes that we have in the county, for sure.
It's what, I'm sorry?
It's not in the worst shape compared to other projects that we would need first in the county.
Okay, so it sounds like the $44 million is a pretty good number, plus the roof at some point that can be funded out of that. Because I was trying to figure out, with the high schools, with Oakland, Riverdale, Smyrna, we had the big issue where we had 156 financed, and then we had another 45 plus, coming out of 177. And I was just trying to assess the pennies from the two sources. Okay.
I ran some numbers just to clarify. It would be less than 2 pennies. For the 41 million.
Okay.
And if I can real quick, one of the things we discussed last year in the funding for Beatty Elementary School was we originally as a school system had planned to take $20 million out of fund balance and use $10 million out of fund balance for this project. And working with the finance department here at the county, we ended up doing $30 million to avoid some of the sharing of the penny with that project. So it would be easier for us to be able to share money that had already been shared out of our fund balance instead of having to go and borrow and use some of that money for LaVergne High School. So that's another reason that this project's in a little bit better shape.
And that's great, because I was also going to ask a little bit about kind of sources out of 177, because I know we allocated a lot of money, 45 million out of 177, Oakland, Riverdale, Smyrna. And you remember that conversation, I presume?
We didn't allocate that much. That's how much we're requesting. We get 18 million a year.
It was in your Fund 177 chart or projection.
It's in the projection, but again, we're only funded 18 million a year on that. So it's not that the county commission funded 45 million. It's just that's how much we see overall in needed projects.
Right, but I was trying to assess the total costs.
Yeah, good, very good point.
Each project. Okay. So is there any indication that those projects have been delayed so that Oakland, Riverdale, Smyrna, or reassigned or adjusted so that we have more money, in 177 that could, for example, go towards the 6? Or I'm just trying to get kind of an update, because we don't get an update typically on 177 to see where those projects and how they shake out and how they're adjusted in the dollars. Do you follow what I'm asking?
I'm confused if you're talking about 177 or 189.
I'm talking about 177. I'm trying to find out if there's excess money in there that would cover, for example, the coming out of Oakland, Riverdale, Smyrna, that would cover the $6 million down the road.
Yeah, that would be where we would have to pull it from. Additional funding, no, I don't think there'd be additional funding from leftover projects. We're waiting on of course, new revenue from the adequate facilities tax to see what that brings in. So that's a possibility, but as far as funding it, we would project to fund it out of 177 in the future years.
Okay, and so as I understand it from the discussion earlier about the goals, portables are going to stay?
No, they will leave, and I want to give you an accurate amount, so I had to pull it up. We have 7 portables there, and then the 19 teachers. We, as one of our requirements when we build an addition, we always remove the portables. Now, how long do they stay gone? That we'd love for them to stay gone forever, but unfortunately, they tend to come back over time.
Okay, and you're asking, so really you're getting rid of portables?
Yes.
And the additional capacity it looks like around what, 500, we'll say 500.
Yes, sir.
Because right now you're over capacity.
Yes.
Based on the number of students, but the actual capacity is 2,000. So for the 500 seats at 44 million, that's 88,000 a seat. Is that roughly?
Correct.
Same math? Okay. And so a new high school is what, around 80-ish?
Yeah, it would be close if we're
80,000,
building
so,
between 200,000 and 200,000. Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're in a not a bad range necessarily. Sometimes it costs more to renovate than it does to build. Okay, so so the goals are additional capacity, that's the main one, and the portables going away.
Those portables will go to Blackman High School next. I already know where they're going. They're going to Blackman High School.
Okay. All right.
Got another question, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I've got
No, go ahead. I don't want to,
Well, I've got other people.
I don't want to monopolize. Go ahead.
Harris, thank you.
Yeah, I'm kind of confused because, and Michael, can you answer this question? I thought this was planned when we did our tax increase. So, was this not part of our debt service budget last year?
Yes, we did this part of the capacity when we moved some pennies around. We moved quite a few pennies around that tax increase year. And one of the things we did is we knew this project was coming. We knew the elementary was coming. And we knew the design cost of some of the middle school was coming. So it was, and I guess the county's 2-year debt service plan, I guess you could call it that, in that capacity. And so we kind of knew this was coming. So yes, you're correct.
Anyone else? Irvin, anything else?
1 second.
Chairman Phillips, would you like to input? I know you also attend the health and ed meetings while he's looking. So.
This is LaVergne is the one that we pulled the funding on several years ago because of the extraordinary increase in cost of those 3 school projects. And at that time, we, in essence, promised, at least this commissioner did, promised that we would not ignore LaVergne, and this is the living up to our commitment to make sure that LaVergne got what they needed. Jimmy, Dr. Sullivan, can you explain the difference between an addition and an annex?
Yes. So our addition is going through and adding actual classrooms that is connected to the school. A lot of times when we build an annex, we're just able to go and kind of add a connector wing that is just through a hallway. This will be connected to the building, almost identical to what Smyrna High School is. One of the comments we talked about with health and education is that we always want to make sure that our building outlasts what we're borrowing, and we feel like this is a great interest of our taxpayers to be using money wisely.
Thank you, Chairman. We're good. Okay, you've heard the discussion, and I will add myself since everybody else seems to have. I agree with Chairman Phillips. You know, this is something we put off. This is something that's needed in LaVergne. I'm about as far away from LaVergne as you can get in this county. My people have been paying for your schools for years. You know,
This was also part of our commitment to increase the size of those schools instead of building them so close together.
anyway, we try to do that and be fair as we can be, spread these costs out as much as we can. But that's my take on that. I feel like I committed myself to go with this addition at that time. But anyway, having heard that and not hearing any more discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion to approve the money for this annex or addition. And a second, Commissioner Gooch, Chairman Gooch.
If y'all could, for my direction, give me the direction. Do you want the recommendation to fund through a future bond issuance?
Yes.
Okay.
Need me to say that?
Where I can put it in the minutes as long as you're agreeable to that.
So my motion is to approve this funding and to have it go to the spring in bond.
Yes, to approve this and to be funded through a future bond issuance.
As said.
And my second can reflect that. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Piercy?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Is it me? Okay, I'm sorry. Yes.
Commissioner Irvin? Yes. Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Commissioners. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Motion carries. Thank you, Dr. Sullivan. Okay. Next is item 19, TEMA application registration for state grant contract.
Oh,
Skip something? What?
I think we're going to tag team this one, if that was okay.
Yeah, that's fine. So Chris, you coming on up too? That's all right.
Before Director Clark presents this, I'd like to say these typically don't come before the commission or this body, and they haven't in the past. However, this time, the state has added the word state grant contract on top of the form they would like us to fill out. And so we just want to cover our basis to make sure that we've got the proper approvals in place. And this would be for disaster relief funding. Now, we tend to get that several years later. I'll let Director Clark talk about those specific things, but I just wanted you to see why you're seeing it tonight. We typically don't. They've added that at the top, and so we wanted to err on the side of caution and bring it anyways.
And this is for the registration for the PA?
Yes.
Okay. So we received a document that is to register to apply. And we need allow the mayor to sign that registration to apply for a public assistance grant because it says contract on there.
Do you need a motion for that?
Yes, please.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
Second, Commissioner Sireno. That motion would allow the mayor to
essentially submit our registration and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is going to go for the readable cleanup and stuff like that we
That's
probably
correct.
won't get for 2 years from now. We may have to bring one back for the North Carolina piece that we sent a team out there. But it's just kind of the way TEMA and FEMA operate, and we just wanted to err on the side of caution since they put the word state grant contract at the top.
Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries.
So we've had some other developments with other grants as well. We received, I believe it was Monday of this week, I believe it was. I received information of the amounts that we would receive through our Homeland Security grant and our UASI grant this year. The complication is that the applications are due for Homeland Security on the 15th, UASI on the 17th of this month. I apologize. This is about the second or third time they've done this to us in the midstream of our cycles in committee meetings. The first grant is our UASIs. It's Urban Area Security Initiative, which is a Homeland Security grant. Totaling $171,463. The second one
Mr.
is
Chairman, where are we in the item?
These two are the first two items under other business.
Sorry about that.
I didn't say that, and I should have. Excuse me. No, that's fine. I wanted you to do these while we're up, but again, after we complete here, we want to have a discussion on these things popping up unexpectedly. But please continue.
Okay. And the second one is the Homeland Security grant for $17,183.71. And what we're requesting is to apply, and if able, once we receive that, is accept that grant money during that time. This is 100% reimbursement. We do this each year. And a lot of this, it has to do with the Sheriff's Department, LaVergne Police Department, Rutherford County EMS, on multiple Homeland Security items.
Michael, well, we need to separate these two.
We can, or we can take them together. I want to add, if I could add one thing to both of these. I know in the past, some of the larger grants, we want to come back to this committee. There is a deadline on these. For example, the latest one, item B, the Homeland Security, it's due, and I'll have a quick turnaround time. It's due on the 15th of this month. And so if that's amenable to the committee, there's going to be a really short turnaround time on these. So if that's amenable to accept them when they come back, and like Director Clark said, we do get this one every year. But that one was due on the 15th, and the other one was due on the 17th, and there's a quick turnaround time. So that's kind of why they're here tonight, and why we may need to accept them when they come back quickly, if that's okay with the committee.
Go ahead with the second one, unless I hear someone say that we want to split these.
That was
second
both
one?
of them,
Okay.
sir. And also, I reached out to the mayor, also to Chairman Pettis Reed, and also to Chairman P concerning these matters, and they wish us to bring these to you guys.
Any questions for Chris? And as he says, these are grants that we have done for what, the last 15 years? Somewhere in there.
9/11.
Well, exactly.
So.
Any further discussion? If not, I'll entertain a motion for both of these.
Motion to approve
Have a
along the
motion.
lines of what been discussed.
Have a motion?
Second.
And a second, Commissioner Serino. Michael, do we need to add any verbiage to that? We're good? All right. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Serena?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris? Yes. Commissioner Irvin? Yes. Chairman P?
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Chris.
Sorry to bother.
No, it's all right. All right.
Chris, before you leave, Mr. Chairman, our emergency responders stepped up. You guys that don't know this, back during, was it Helena? Is that how you pronounce the hurricane?
Correct.
That hit North Carolina and East Tennessee extremely hard. We were spared for the most part, but our emergency response to help our neighbors up in East Tennessee was second to none. And I would just want to recognize, or we just need to make sure we recognize, Chris, you and your department, all of your employees who helped out our neighbors to the east. And it was a extremely difficult blow, and they're still recovering. But your help and the help that Rutherford County sent was invaluable to East Tennessee, and I just wanted to recognize your efforts for that process. When we need help, we've received help. So when others need help, we send help, and just thank you for responding in that way.
And we appreciate that. We sent 20 responders. Now it's up to 23. We've had some Smyrna Utilities personnel go down and help revitalize their water system, which is, we're very grateful for those people. But we had 3 individuals that were in the incident command management of it. And we had approximately 19 responders that went down to go through debris piles that is unimaginable. I'm sure that there are some visions that they can't get out of their head. I could not imagine. I never thought a hurricane would do that in East Tennessee, North Carolina, those areas. It definitely looked like a third world country. We sent many responders that way. Our Tennessee Mutual Aid partners, we all worked really well together, and we've been training for that. And so we've had multiple meetings, and so they pick up and go. There's one last point. That was during fall break, where most people were on vacation and doing their things. These individuals were with their selflessness and family support, went to go help those poor people. Years and years it's going to take to recover. Some of those individuals they'll never find that were affected. Please keep those individuals in East Tennessee in your prayers. North Carolina, South Carolina. It's just bad. I'd like to add to that, for anybody that hasn't witnessed that kind of devastation, that is grueling, back-breaking labor. These guys were not on any kind of a fun sightseeing trip.
And most of those piles were in places where you could not reach with heavy equipment. So piece by piece, with unimaginable size debris piles, probably big as this building, that they had to sift through, chainsaws, hand pick it apart to remove those victims, along with searches. And I think they made some tremendous water rescues during that flood, and it was a challenge, and they met that challenge, and they took off. And we actually were tracking them in our EOC. I have it on my phone right now, but we have a concept where we can track all of our responders in other areas so that we know that they're safe. We know exactly where they are at all times, and you just sit there and watch your tracks. So it's pretty neat, pretty fascinating. So thank you.
All right, we're moving along. Michael, I think you've got the next 2 or 3 here. First is a presentation of the refunding plan and the Comptroller of the Treasury. And I don't think we need a motion on this first part, or do we?
Let's go ahead and, if I could take a vote, but if it's okay with the committee, I'd like to talk about items 20 and 21 together, explain them as a whole, and then if we could just take 2 votes That way I have record. We're required to submit it to each member of the governing body, and the vote gives us a record that we presented it. So if that's okay with the committee, that's what I'd like to do, if that's okay.
Sure, continue, please.
So I'm going to cover items 20 and 21 together, and they are related, and I'm making sure I get my numbers correct here. So item 20 is when we want to do a debt refunding, we have to submit a report and a plan to the State Comptroller's office. They review our plan. If there's any issues, they'll essentially tell us we can't do it or that we're not going to save any money. That's not the case here. And they also submit a letter, and this plan and letter is required to be available on our website, which it is on SharePoint, and it must be presented to each member of the Board of Commissioners for review prior to adoption of item 21. And so you'll see that, if passed tonight, you'll see that at the full commission meeting next week. And so what we would like to do is refund our bonds from 2015. We generally issue 20-year bonds, and they're callable in 10 years. And so coming up on April 1st of 2025, we'd like to call those bonds and refund a portion of those. And we've done a lot of those over the years to take advantage of the interest rates and things like that. This specific, just the refunding portion, we were projecting to save around $875,000 over the course of 10 years, and I'm going to clarify that here in a second. However, I mentioned earlier that the bond market did not do so well yesterday. The stock market did really well, but the bond market did not do as well. So our savings have dropped to a little over $750,000. However, we are in a really good, unique position in this county, thanks to this body and the commission, based on the fiscal management that has been done. And we're going to kind of do something, or would propose to do something that we haven't done in a long time here, if it ever. And we would like to pay off the last 3 years of those bonds, so years 2033, 2034, and 2035. If we do that, then our $750,000 to $800,000 savings I just mentioned, instead of that savings being over 10 years, it's now over 7 years. And our debt service overall would be reduced by between $9 and $10 million, and we would have to spend a little over almost $7.2 million. So that's a net savings of between $2 and $3 million over the next 10 years. That's the gist of what I'm saying if we do this. And so what we would do is refund the first 7 years of those bonds and recognize our between $700,000 and $800,000 worth of savings, and then we would pay off the maturities for 2033, 2034, and 2035. And all of that together would save us between $2 and $3 million over the next 10 years. So that, in a nutshell, is the 50,000-foot view of what we're proposing tonight. Now I'm going to specifically tell you what's on your iPad in front of you. So under item 20, you're going to see our debt refunding plan that is submitted by our bond advisors, or municipal advisors is what they're called. They submit that on our behalf. Of course, they work with us on a daily basis when we're working through this. So that is attached. That's required to be attached. Then you'll see the letter from the Comptroller's office that's required to be out on our website, where the Office of Local Government Finance has approved this. And then under item 21, our bond counsel has prepared our resolutions that, if approved tonight, you would see at the commission meeting next week. And I want to point out, like I said, one thing that is very different here than what we've done in the past with the refundings is there's going to be a section where you go ahead and authorize us not to exceed $10 million to redeem a portion of those bonds, and specifically it's going to be the years 2033, 2034, and 2035. That's the big bulk of these savings, and due to the budgeting maneuvers and the conservative approaches and some of the one-time money we've gotten over the last couple years, we're able to do this and save about $3 million. So I know I covered a lot. I'll take any detailed questions, or we'll get as detailed as y'all would like, or as...
Does those numbers fluctuate based on the bond market?
Yes, that's why I've given you average.
Actually, we could save more money.
Correct. That's why we gave conservative estimates. So when I'm saying on that refunding deal over the next 7 years, $100,000 a year, if we save $700,000, be $100,000 a year. That's a conservative estimate based on, we're going to round up a few, probably usually 25 basis points, 0.25% we'll estimate up. So yes, you're correct. They could be over $3 million in savings. It could be.
So that makes it even more important for us to continue our AAA rating.
That's correct. Now I will add this. this resolution does allow us to pull the plug if something were to go awry. A World War III, I mean, some act of God event, something not advantageous in the bond or stock markets. I mean, there's a number of things like that that are out of control. If it doesn't save money, we would be required to pull this back, and we wouldn't do it, and we would keep paying our debt like we normally would.
Okay, for what you're asking for first, though, would be a motion to approve the plan presented to the Comptroller's office. Am I correct?
Yes, that would be fine.
So you needed two motions?
Yes, I'm required, the way the law reads is I'm required to present it, we're required to present it to the governing body, and I like to have that vote because then it's set in stone in record and we always have it, and so that's why I like that, and so yes, that would be the first motion. The second one would be to approve the resolution to issue the GO refunding bonds, and that would be item number 21.
You've heard the discussion. Is there any more questions or a motion?
Redemption source of funds. You just discuss that once more.
Yes, so that portion that I was talking about for the $7 million is I think what you're asking for. That would come out of our debt service fund. And so if you recall the last 2 budget years, we've been really conservative on our investment income because we weren't sure when the Fed was going to lower rates and things like that. And so by doing so, we would like to use some of that one-time money to kind of pay off a one-time costs and take advantage of some savings there. And so that would be coming out of the debt service fund.
Okay, and how much debt's left over after the refunding?
Countywide?
Countywide.
I'm going to give you a number that's assuming we pay our principal on April 1 of this year. So it would be after FY25. Since we're halfway through, we've already paid our interest in October, and we'll pay principal and interest in April 1. So I'm going to give you what it would be ending after this fiscal year, if that's okay.
That's fine.
Approximately $550 million. And that does not include the new issuance that approved earlier tonight for the schools.
So that's not including the 44 million.
41 was what, yes.
Oh, sorry, 41,
yes.
Sorry.
Any more questions?
And the reason I gave you an approximate number was, like Chairman Harris said, when we do the refunding, it depends on what our overall premium discount was there, so.
Understood. I'll make the first motion. I think you want to do them in order. Okay, as described by our CFO.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 20, which is the plan that's gone to the
State Comptroller's office.
Comptroller's office. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? Call roll on this one.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank you.
And motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make the second motion as well.
I have a motion for item 21, and as stated, do I hear a second? Second. Vice Chairman Gooch. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson? Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Item 22, Michael.
Item 22 is going to be a contract to approve the county to work with GNRC out of Nashville to they help us implement our broadband communities grant that has already previously been approved. We have several of these contracts with GNRC. They're on a grant-by-grant basis. The grant will cover the cost of that, but it's required that we enter into a contract on a grant-by-grant basis with them.
For the discussion, and this is already approved, right?
The grant has already been approved, our Broadband Connect grant, but they will help us administer the grant, so we have to approve the contract for them to help us administer that, for GNRC to help us with that. And like I said, the grant will pay for that, so that's why there's no budget amendment tonight. That's already been approved.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. Any further discussion? Call roll, please.
Commissioner Johnson? Yes. Commissioner Sherino?
Yes.
Commissioner Gooch?
Yes.
Commissioner Harris?
Yes.
Commissioner Urban?
Yes.
Chairman P?
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion carries. Michael, item 23, annual report.
I don't think this one requires a motion, but we just always want to present it to y'all. Our county departments do a really good job with their inventory. Almost everybody is 85 to 90% or above, or even 100%. So when you're looking through our capital asset reports, like on page 8, there's our results for last fiscal year. The reason a couple of the larger departments, ambulance service, EMA, they have a lot of moving pieces, so we extrapolate out that data. We do it on a sample basis, so we may not actually touch every single gun holster. We're not going to touch every single item on an ambulance. We do it on a sample basis every year, so that's why those percentages are a little less. And the items that are missing are either really old, and a lot of times we find those, but a lot of those are from 2011, 2012, and so overall it's another good year on that, and our departments do a really good job. And I'd like to thank Denise in my office who does a really good job and stays on top of that. She's kind of a one-person operation, and she does the county and the schools. So all throughout the summer, she's walking the school buildings, checking inventory, and she does a great job for us. So I can take any questions about that, but just wanted to present that to y'all every year.
Like you said, we don't need a motion on this, but
Nope.
And the full commission will, of course, get this.
I can put it on there if you'd like. We don't normally, but I'll be glad to send it on for the consent or something.
Well, please do.
Okay.
Please. That way they'll know it's there and
Yep.
brought up. That concludes the business that we have. I'd like to speak for just a minute, as I mentioned earlier. Almost every month, I'm getting a call from one of our departments or department heads requesting to come straight to us instead of going through the committee process. And normally, I'll ask them, first of all, have you contacted the chairman of that committee, and what's their opinion? If it's public safety, be Chairman Reed or whoever it might be. And two, basically, if there's a compelling reason, I have brought that forward, and y'all have seen that. We did that tonight. I've always asked them to, of course, run it by Michael and whoever is our budget chairman to make that decision, but I don't think it's right for y'all not to know, why that's happening. For instance, there's quite a bit of money that we would lose just due to logistics and timing. And I just wanted the opinion of the committee, if you'd like to continue as we have been, with them notifying the chairman and the finance director and getting our approval. Now, if somebody just, I forgot, that's not good enough. It's something that's a deadline that's imposed on them unexpectedly, to me, that's a reason. But if, I forgot, it doesn't go very far for me. Anyway, that's kind of my feelings on it, but I'd like to hear from the committee. Want to continue bringing these things forward, or do we need to say, no, you're going to have to go through the committee process, which at times would mean they're not going to meet deadlines?
Chairman P., how do we not have this problem? I mean, why are we hitting, I agree with you 100%, but why are we hitting deadlines? If it was a grant request and it went through the committee process, like public safety, correct? And then it comes to us, why is that? It can't be just, you got 30 days to do something. I mean, you got 6 months to do these grants. Am I not correct?
Well, so if the only time I ever call Chairman P here is if it's the department's fault that they just were lazy, I'd never call Chairman P and ask him that we need to add something. The only time, and in this case, I'll use the SRO example tonight, they sent that Monday or Tuesday of this week. Public safety had already met, and it was due by December 2nd. And so we couldn't, those are the only time I'm ever going to recommend that we would bring it here. And so that one, we have no idea, no way to prevent that piece. Same with the two that Chris Clark brought. They sent him an email the first of this week and said, hey, by the way, you need to give this in. That $800 for SROs, that's just a pass-through. It's a salary supplement. And so we hate to miss on that for the SROs. But in that case, the state had leftover money, and they sent us an email on the Monday and Tuesday, and I don't know how you prevent that, really. But I will say I'd never call Chairman P. If it has something to do with, oh, I forgot, my recommendation's always been to him, I think they need to either miss out on it or go through the committee process. But on the 2 or 3 tonight, they're almost always grants, and they're almost always where they've sent it to us last minute.
It's happened, and it's happening more and more regular, but there's no way to avoid those type of things, and I sure don't want to miss out on that money. The other thing is calling the chairman of that committee, I think, is important too, just to let them know what's going on as well. So I think that's a really good process and procedure to go through.
I could add one more thing. I think if there's ever anything that this body really thinks it's important for that, let's say, for example, the SRO that came tonight, it's a no match, but let's say that was really important for the Public Safety Committee to hear, we can always pull it off as an item by itself at the commission and not put it on the consent agenda. We'd be happy to do that if that was something that this body wanted to do as well. I mean, that's an option, so that way everybody has a chance to see it individually if it was needed. I do think that's an option that y'all have.
Well, it could be pulled from any commissioner as it's
correct
under our rules now. So, guys, if y'all have no complaints with that, I just want to be up front and let you know I will never try to bypass you, and I will never try to bypass any of our other committees. I want those structures to give their input. As long as I've been up here, what I have found is I'm not as smart as everybody here together by a long shot, and as long as we're working in the same direction, we usually come up with a better plan when there are more of us in the game. So I'll always advocate going through the committee whenever possible. Any other business? We're adjourned.